Hare Krishna devotees, accept my obeisances, all good Sri Prabhupada. Welcome devotees to our first Bhagavad Gita circle that we are starting on the auspicious day of the appearance of Advaita Acharya. Can't find a better day than this. So we are, without further delay, we will start with the program, and we welcome Mother Gita. For some of you that may not know Mother Gita, she is from ISKCON Atlanta, and she's a very senior disciple of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Swami, and I am so happy. And many of us who have heard her classes are so blessed and so fortunate to have her on our class. And she will be starting off our Bhagavad Gita circle. Mother, without further delay, it's all yours.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jadvaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 1, text number 1. Dhritarashtra Vacha Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva Kima Kurvata Sanjaya. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? Purport. Bhagavad Gita is a widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Mahatmya, or glorification of the Gita. There it says that one should read Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna and try to understand it without personally motivated interpretations. The example of clear understanding is there in the Bhagavad Gita itself, in the way the teaching is understood by Arjuna, who heard the Gita directly from the Lord. If someone is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad Gita in that line of disciplic succession without motivated interpretation, then he surpasses all studies of Vedic wisdom and all scriptures of the world. One will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. That is the specific standard of the Gita. It is a perfect theistic science because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. The topics discussed by Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya, as described in the Mahabharata, form the basic principle for this great philosophy. It is understood that this philosophy evolved on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is a sacred place of pilgrimage from the immemorial time of the Vedic age. It was spoken by the Lord when he was present personally on the planet for the guidance of mankind. The word Dharmakshetra, or a place where religious rituals are performed, is significant because on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, I think it has moved a little bit, so.
Brenda, can you go down a bit?
Oh, that's okay. I have opened my own screen.
Okay, Mother.
Sorry about that.
It's okay, Mother.
The word Dharmakshetri, or a place where religious rituals are performed, is significant because on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the supreme, again, it just moved. Okay. Let me start again. Sorry about that. The word Dharmakshetri, a place where religious rituals are performed, is significant because on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present on the side of Arjuna. Dhritarashtra, the father of the Kurus, was highly doubtful about the possibility of his son's ultimate victory. In his doubt, he inquired from his secretary Sanjaya, what did they do? He was confident that both his sons and the sons of his younger brother Pandu were assembled in that field of Kurukshetra for a determined engagement of the war. Still, his inquiry is significant. He did not want a compromise between the cousins and brothers, and he wanted to be sure of the fate of his sons on the battlefield. Because the battle was arranged to be fought at Kurukshetra, which is mentioned elsewhere in the Vedas as a place of worship, even for the denizens of heaven, Dhritarashtra became very fearful about the influence of the holy place on the outcome of the battle. He knew very well that this would influence Arjuna and the sons of Pandu favorably, because by nature they were all virtuous. Sanjaya was a student of Vyasa, and therefore, by the mercy of Vyasa, Sanjaya was able to envision the battlefield of Kurukshetra even while he was in the room of Dhritarashtra. And so Dhritarashtra asked him about the situation on the battlefield. Need to move the screen.
Next verse, Vrinda. Where is Vrinda?
I can use my screen, but it just pops out when.
Yeah, go all the way down, Vrinda. Did you finish the verse, Mother?
No, I don't.
I thought so, yeah. But Vrinda, go back to the first one and it's the last paragraph. That's what I thought. All the way down. There we go.
Both the Pandavas and the sons of Dhritarashtra belong to the same family, but Dhritarashtra's mind is disclosed herein. He deliberately claimed only his sons as gurus, and he separated the sons of Pandu from the family heritage. One can thus understand the specific position of Dhritarashtra in his relationship with his nephews, the sons of Pandu. As in the paddy field, the unnecessary plants are taken out, so it is expected from the very beginning of these topics that in the religious field of Kurukshetra, where the father of religion, Sri Krishna, was present, the unwanted plants like Dhritarashtra's son Duryodhana and others would be wiped out, and the thoroughly religious persons headed by Yudhishthir would be established by the Lord. This is the significance of the words Dharma Kshetre and Kurukshetre, apart from their historical and Vedic importance. Text number 2. Sanjaya uvacha drishtva tu pandavanikam yuddham duryodhanas tada acharyam upasangamya raja vachanam abravit. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sanjaya said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words. Purport. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. He knew very well that his sons were equally blind in the matter of religion, and he was sure that they could never reach an understanding with the Pandavas, who were all pious since birth. Still, he was doubtful about the influence of the place of pilgrimage, and Sanjaya could understand his motive in asking about the situation on the battlefield. Sanjaya wanted, therefore, to encourage the despondent king and thus assured him that his sons were not going to make any sort of compromise under the influence of the holy place. Sanjaya therefore informed the king that his son Duryodhana, after seeing the military force of the Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief Dronacharya to inform him of the real position. Although Duryodhana is mentioned as the king, he still had to go to the commander on account of the seriousness of the situation. He was therefore quite fit to be a politician, but Duryodhana's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas. Verse number 3. Pashyaitam Pandu Putranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Yuddham Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. O my teacher, Behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupad. Purport. Duryodhana, a great diplomat, wanted to point out the defects of Dronacharya, the great Brahmana commander-in-chief. Dronacharya had some political quarrel with King Drupad, the father of Draupadi, who was Arjuna's wife. As a result of this quarrel, Drupada performed a great sacrifice by which he received the benediction of having a son who would be able to kill Dronacharya. Dronacharya knew this perfectly well, and yet, as a liberal Brahmana, he did not hesitate to impart all his military secrets when the son of Drupada, Drishtadumna, was entrusted to him for military education. Now, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Drishtadumna took the side of the Pandavas, and it was he who arranged for their military phalanx after having learned the art from Dronacharya. Duryodhana pointed out this mistake of Dronacharya so that he might be alert and uncompromising in the fighting. By this, he wanted to point out also that he should not be similarly lenient in battle against the Pandavas, who were also Dronacharya's affectionate students. Arjuna, especially, was his most affectionate and brilliant student. Duryodhana also warned that such leniency in the fight would lead to defeat. Text number 4. Atra Shura Mahesha Sa Bhimarjuna Samayudhi Yuyudhano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharatha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here in this army are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna, great fighters like Yuyudhana, Virata, and Drupada. Purport. Even though Drishtadumna was not a very important obstacle in the face of Dronacharya's very great power in the military art, there were many others who were causes of fear. They are mentioned by Duryodhana as great stumbling blocks on the path of victory because each and every one of them was as formidable as Bhima and Arjuna. He knew the strength of Bhima and Arjuna, and thus he compared the others with them. Text number 5. Drishtaketus Chekitana Kashi Rajascha Viryavan Puruchit Kunti Bhodascha Shaibascha Narapungavaha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. There are also great heroic, powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraj, Purujit, Kunti Bhoj, and Shaibya. Text number 6. Yudhyamanuscha Vikranta Uttamaujascha Viryavan Saubhadro Draupadiyascha Sarva Eva Maharathaha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. There are the mighty Yudhamanyu, the very powerful Uttamaja, the son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi. All these warriors are great chariot fighters. Text number 7. Asmakam tu visheshthaye tane bodha dvijottama nayaka mama sainyasya sapnartham tan pravimite. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. But for your information, O best of the Brahmanas, let me tell you about the captains who are specially qualified to lead my military force. Text number 8. Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Kripascha Samitam Jayaha Ashwathama Vikarnascha Somadattes Tathaivacha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta called Bhurishrava, who are always victorious in battle. Purport. Duryodhana mentions the exceptional heroes in the battle, all of whom are ever victorious. Vikarna is the brother of Duryodhana. Ashwathama is the son of Dronacharya, and Somadati or Bhurishrava is the son of the king of the Vahilikas. Karna is the half-brother of Arjuna, as he was born of Kunti before her marriage with King Pandu. Kripacharya's twin sister married Dronacharya. Text number 9. Anye cha bahavaha shura mad arthe tyakta jivitaha nana shastra praharanaha sarve yuddha visharadaha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons, and all are experienced in military science. Purport. As far as the others are concerned, like Jayadratha, Kritavarma, and Shalya, all are determined to lay down their lives for Duryodhana's sake. In other words, it is already concluded that all of them would die in the battle of Kurukshetra for joining the party of the sinful Duryodhana. Duryodhana was, of course, confident of his victory on account of the above-mentioned combined strength of his friends. Text number 10. Aparyaptam tad asmakam balam bhishma bhirukshitam paryaptam tvidam etesham balam bhima bhirakshitam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas carefully protected by Bhima is limited. Purport. Herein an estimation of comparative strength is made by Duryodhana. He thinks that the strength of his armed forces is immeasurable, being specifically protected by the most experienced general, grandfather Bhishma. On the other hand, the forces of the Pandavas are limited, being protected by a less experienced general, Bhima, who is like a fig in the presence of Bhishma. Duryodhana was always envious of Bhima because he knew perfectly well that if he should die at all, he would only be killed by Bhima. But at the same time, he was confident of his victory on account of the presence of Bhishma, who was a far superior general. His conclusion that he would come out of the battle victorious was well ascertained. Text number 11. Ayaneshu cha sarveshu yatha bhagam avasthitaha bhishmam eva bhirakshantu bhavanta sarva eva hi. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. All of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army. Purport. Duryodhana, after praising the prowess of Bhishma, further considered that others might think that they had been considered less important. So in his usual diplomatic way, he tried to adjust the situation in the above words. He emphasized that Bhishma Dev was undoubtedly the greatest hero, but he was an old man, so everyone must specially think of his protection from all sides. He might become engaged in the fight and the enemy might take advantage of his full engagement on one side. Therefore, it was important that other heroes not leave their strategic positions and allow the enemy to break the phalanx. Duryodhana clearly felt that the victory of the Kurus depended on the presence of Bhishma Dev. He was confident of the full support of Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya in the battle because he well knew that They did not even speak a word when Arjuna's wife Draupadi, in her helpless condition, had appealed to them for justice while she was being forced to appear naked in the presence of all the great generals in the assembly. Although he knew that the two generals had some sort of affection for the Pandavas, he hoped that these generals would now completely give it up as they had done during the gambling performances. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mother Geeta. Would like to ask devotees if you have any questions that you have heard from what we have read, or Mother Geeta, if you would like to shed some light, clarification on what you have read. What was coming to my mind, Mother, and probably others can also jump right in, is in the past 10, 11 verses that you have read, what I'm sensing is doubt and fear. A lot of doubt and a lot of fear, mothers. And I'm just trying to think is, in our Krishna consciousness, especially, sometimes we go through life, whether we are new or been around for so long, there's so much doubt that comes up, Mother. And I can see putting myself, in that situation, that Duryodhan, he's using all these examples. Oh, I have this person, I have this person, trying to justify the strength of his army, trying to, make him feel good when I know. And sometimes we go through that in life, Mother. How can we overcome such doubts in our life by glorifying, oh, I have this and I have this and I have this?
Yes, that's a natural instinct, whenever there is fear, sometimes people like to act confident, like even though at heart they are fearful and they know, just like, let's take the very first verse, Dhritarashtra. He was blind, of course, materially and spiritually, and he knew very well that he was wrong. He was religious, his sons were religious. He understood that the battle was in the holy place, Kurukshetra, which is a Dharma Kshetra. He knew, but still he had that slight hope, that maybe my irreligious sons would win the battle. So in the very first verse, we can see the fear of Dhritarashtra. Had he been confident, then he would not, inquire from Sanjaya, what did my sons do? What did the Pandavas do? So we can see that. So here, as you rightly said, even Duryodhana, he is also fearful, but because he was a very proud person, and as Prabhupada says, you could be a great politician, he was being diplomatic, but at heart he knew that the Pandavas were religious, they were going to win, and but here he is trying to bring up the confidence of the others also on his side, like Dronacharya and Bhishma. Bhishma Pitama knew that Krishna is on the other side. There's no way Duryodhana is going to win the battle. So we also, sometimes have fear and doubts. And Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita that the doubts should be removed with the help of knowledge. And that is why, you have started this wonderful program of reading Bhagavad Gita, because only when we hear and read Bhagavad Gita in association of devotees, then we will be able to really understand and then be able to remove the fear and doubts, because Arjuna also had so many doubts. Bhagavad Gita is full of questions by Arjuna. He is also doubtful, and Krishna is removing the doubts with the help of knowledge. Like even Arjuna calls Krishna Madhusudana, which means, "O Lord, who has killed the demon Madhu, just like you kill the demon Madhu, you please kill the doubts from my heart." So the only way is to hear and read Bhagavad Gita in association of devotees. So.
Thank you, Mother. Vishaka, go ahead.
Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I think listening to this part, I think many of us have probably studied the introduction or the beginning part of the Bhagavad Gita. And I believe one time I was reading it with the commentary by Burijan Prabhu, Surrender Unto Me. And I believe it's written in there, I'm not sure, but I remember reading that actually Duryodhan, even though he seemed very like tyrannical, he was actually a good politician, a good ruler. And judging from this section, how diplomatic he was and how he was thinking about protecting Bhishma Dev, who seemed to be like the crux of his side of the battle. And it made me just realize that somebody could be as good as they come in their job, like Duryodhan was as a politician. But without Krishna, he was nothing. He lost anyways. So that just came to my mind when I was remembering that part from the commentary.
Yes, beautiful. And if any of you don't have Surrender Unto Me, please get that book. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. Gives such nice explanation. Of course, we read Srila Prabhupada's purports, but Harijan Prabhu's explanation adds to it. It's like cherry on the cake. So thank you for that comment. Thank you.
It's a nice book to have, as you said, Mother, to add more meaning to Prabhupada's purports and really understand, to make it so practical. It's an amazing book. I agree with you. Surrender Unto Me is a very nice book. Dear Krishna, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Thank you so much, Mataji, for kickstarting us. Beautiful reading. As you were reading, although it's just a chapter 1, I mean, a lot of things that sounded definitely new again. The more you read, so much we don't know, but few points that I was thinking when you were reading, that although it is just a chapter 1, and sometimes we think chapter 1 is just a collection of names of so many warriors and so many people, but actually if we see, it is showing us the vision of somebody who's a devotee and somebody who's not a devotee, how he's looking. Like Duryodhan, like everyone else mentioned, Mataji mentioned, Vishaka mentioned, fear. He was just running here and there in the fear and trying to encourage his people, still in doubt. So, because it was out of attachment and lust that he was running the whole show. So, a lot of fear in his mind. And like Krishna also says further, Vitarag Bhaya Krodha. So, out of attachment, that whole fear is arising in his mind. So, and also, the Duryodhan was very good politician, trying to encourage all his people, going to all the key people one by one, and so something that we can also learn, that how to encourage others in the service. Also, we should one-to-one correspondence, do communication with them, and that's how we should encourage them also. That's all comes to my mind right now. To share.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you.
That was nice. Thank you, dear Krishna. I see something in the chat. Pranav and Rohin, they said, wonder why the setting of the battle was chosen as a setting to start Gita, which is very scary and drastic situation. Any insights? Can you shed some light, Mother? So that's a very innocent, but I like that question. Either Mother Gita or Prakshit, but Mother Gita, please, you go first, Mother.
Yes, what I had heard is one time Srila Prabhupada saying that actually people generally have Mahabharata in their homes also. There's Mahabharata going on, fighting going on between the spouses or children or whatever it may be. So this is what I had heard. Probably Parikshit Prabhu can add some light to it.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I would quote from my Diksha Guru, Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami. The significance to approach it at a different angle. Our lives, our own lives, are our own small battles of Kurukshetra also. We're dealing with a mind, an intelligence, a mind that's trying to do the wrong thing sometimes, and intelligence that's trying to straighten them up. And so we are in the holy ground by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. In other words, our consciousness is that of Krishna consciousness, the holy ground. But Maya is there. And what we've been taught by the spiritual master is also there. And the battle is, which one do we choose on a daily basis? That's why hearing is important. That's why chanting is important for protection against Maya. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. Thank you.
it's also an interesting point. There's one point that he just mentioned that made me think that, you know, when he said, when he was sharing my spiritual master's point that we're all fighting our own battle of Kurukshetra, and Kurukshetra being the holy land, it made me think in a different angle, Mother. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I'll just share, and, you know, you can tell me right or wrong. Is our bodies and our minds are supposed to be, as they say, the temple of God. And when our minds are being battled with so much of stuff, then we ourselves are corrupting or messing up this temple of God, the body that was given to us by the Lord. So we ourselves are fighting our own battle of Kurukshetra, as participants in small ways, to cleanse ourselves from all these battles so that our body becomes holy. I'm just trying to, yeah, it just popped into my head when Prashant was talking about that. Like, I don't know if I'm making sense here, but
A deep
just wanted to
thought.
share that.
A deep thought.
Yeah, deep. Yes, Mother. Yes, dear Krishna. You have your hand up, Prabhu. You want to say something?
No, Mataji, I think I did lower my hand twice.
Oh, okay, okay. Any other last minute before we end this wonderful sharing, this wonderful reading? It's such nice. There's another quote from dear Krishna said, also since Krishna was present. Ah, very nice point. Since Krishna was present, any place would have become a Dharma Kshetra anyway. Yes. Yes, that's a very good point there, Krishna. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope that answered Rohin's and Pranav's question on that. But yeah, thank you. And just as yes, Dr. Brett, please jump right in, young man.
Hare Krishna, Mother Gita, accept my humble obeisances, all goes to Srila Prabhupada. I was just rereading over text 4, and I thought about this, you know, before we read the first chapter so many times, but there's the portion where Duryodhana says that he knew, you know, facing the battlefield, he knew the strength of Bhima and Arjuna, and thus he compared the others with them. Every time I read, you know, these first few texts in the first chapter, you know, and I look at the Battle of Kurukshetra as like the beginning point of everything, no matter, you know, what events followed or were prior, you know, this is the establishment of, you know, Arjuna accepting his constitutional position. So I was just reflecting on how like Duryodhana has, you know, these opinions and makes these comparisons, and, you know, we reflect on so many names and so many fighters and how great they are, and they're gearing up for this battle. But here, you know, there's moments of praising Arjuna, but we're going to see in the next couple of texts that, like, as we know, like Arjuna was pretty much in the fetal position on his chariot, but yet he had, you know, Krishna at his side in the transcendental Kaddish. So you could, in a way, I think of the first few texts as just like very, like, you know, heavy and hype, and like they're getting ready for this battle, but, you know, when in all reality, we know Arjuna's, you know, in a way terrified. So if you could speak on, you know, I guess these assumptions among these individuals, you know, saying, oh, this person's great, this person's great, this person's great. But as we know, you know, as these texts follow, you know, some of them may not showcase that greatness to, you know, the best of their abilities.
Yes, absolutely. There's so much to learn from these just few verses of chapter 1. Many times, you know, devotees say, oh, we can skip chapter 1 and go straight to chapter 2. That's where Krishna starts speaking the Bhagavad Gita. But it's important to know the foundation, you know, important to understand what is it that Arjuna is going through and what's going on in his mind, what are the confusions and doubts. So it's important to understand chapter 1 also.
Good point, Mother. Yeah, we can't skip ahead. I was just reading a nice quote by Srila Prabhupada. I went on Dandavats, and there was a nice link that says 60 ways to read and study Srila Prabhupada's books, and he said we can't skip. That's the first thing he says. We start from the first, we do not skip. He says that's how we understand the transcendental knowledge. That's the first thing, was his first quote. Yes, thank you, Mother, for reminding us.
You know, the lazy mind, you know, tries to find loopholes. I'm going to talk about something that we did, my husband and I did in the beginning years of Krishna consciousness. A spiritual master said you should read Bhagavad Gita every day. So what we did, we just read the translations. So because purports were too big, so we thought, let's just read the translations, and that's as good as reading the Bhagavad Gita. But he said, no, you got to read purports too.
Because the purpose was Prabhupada's explanation, so to speak. So yeah, that was powerful, Mother. Thank you. We can't skip it.
No.
Yes, we can. And like Dear Krishna said, even though we've read it, but we go back, and what I have benefited, Mother, just by reading this first 11 verses with everybody is like so powerful. So powerful in the devotee association. So thank you so much for starting us off. Are there any last questions before we end the session? Any comments, any takeaways, any questions on what we have read? And if you don't have, we want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Mother Gita, again,
Thank
for
you.
starting us off on our first session on the appearance of Advaita Acharya. And we remind devotees, tomorrow morning is Bhagavatam class, 8 o'clock, and Wednesday we'll follow up with the Bhagavad Gita circle, picking up from the next verse. And Wednesday will be Balabhadra Prabhu. So please do join us. Until then, have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you again, Mother Gita. Vanchakaptibhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Aye.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Mother.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.